first speaker this morning. His name is Mr. Paulo Marchi, and Mr. Marchi is the Deputy Representative for the Guyana and Suriname at UNICEF. He's an international development professional and holds a LLM in international human rights law and specializes in international organizations, management, economic, social, and cultural rights, rights to health, child rights, minority rights, human rights trainer, child protection system, child welfare, and child-friendly justice. We now welcome Mr. Marchi.
First of all, let me extend the greetings to you from the UNICEF representative. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today because she's out of the country. So I'm in charge. I will deliver the remarks on her behalf. UNICEF sees today's event as a critical follow-up step, standing up on the conclusion of the conference that the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs hosted last year. They hosted this very, very important international conference, which among others was going to promote international family law, legal cooperation, and commerce. Last year, UNICEF, through the partnership with the Ministry of Legal Affairs and HCCH, noted that the conference was a very important moment for all countries participating to make very, very important commitments. And we see today as a key follow-up to make sure that Guyana is going to follow up on the important commitments and make these commitments a reality. As you all know, UNICEF ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and we really think that ratifying and adopting the Hague Convention, especially convention related to children's rights, is going to be a step forward and key to make sure that Guyana can abide to the international and fulfill the international legal obligation deriving from the Convention on the Rights of the Child. You might remember the Committee on the Rights of the Child in his concluding observation a few years back. Among the concluding observation, encouraged Guyana to ratify and to adopt some of the convention of the Hague Convention, especially the Convention on Adoption, Child Protection, and on child support. We see it's very important, and for instance, a very important step that the country we would really encourage the country to make is, as you know, the country is trying to articulate a policy on alternative care for children without parental care. And we see the principles surrounding adoption, both as per the UN guidelines, but especially per the Hague Convention on Adoption, needs to be incorporated and considered while developing this policy. And this is just an example of the usefulness and the need for this convention to be part of the Guyana legal framework. We are very aware that in addition to child protection issues, the Hague Convention also deals with trade, commerce, and just convention is facilitating the ease of doing business, especially international business. This is not a matter for UNICEF, is not part of UNICEF mandate. But we welcome this part of the discussion and fruitful discussion today, because UNICEF is trying to get closer and to make a closer partnership with the private sector, because we see the private sector as a key stakeholders in the realization of children's rights. Just a few examples in eradicating child labor or exploitation, for instance, but that's not the only case. UNICEF is ready to support the country in its process of adoption of the Hague Conventions, and especially in the implementation once that the convention are translated into the national legal system, into the implementation of this convention and these new legal frameworks. Today's discussion is a very important moment, as it will help the country and the country to understand which conventions to prioritize and how to make sure that adopting the convention will be followed up by a strong implementation of this new legal framework. So this is why I really wish you a very, very successful discussion, and I'm very pleased and welcome the initiative of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs to make sure that before moving forward with the process, we have this important consultation in which all important stakeholders, civil society, members of ministries and private sectors are represented. So I wish you a very successful discussion, and I really look forward to the convention to become part of the Guyanese legal system. Thank you.
We have our next speaker, who is our facilitator, Mr. Ignacio Gochea. And Mr. Gochea brings to this forum a wealth of experience and knowledge. Mr. Gochea received his law degree in 1993 from Buenos Aires University. In 1995, he became a formally trained mediator. He has taught private international law as an assistant professor at both John F. Kennedy and El Salvador universities in Buenos Aires, and he specializes in international protection of children and international legal cooperation. He has also written several articles, including an article in the Hague 1980 International Child Abduction Convention and family law. In addition, also he has written an article, the Hague 2007 International Child Support Convention in Latin America, and another article on international child abduction. A warm welcome awaits you, Mr. Ignacio.
Good morning to everyone. Let me start by thanking the Attorney General and Paolo Marchi for partnering us in this effort and having the excellent idea of setting this follow-up meeting from the international conference we have in this same room last year in July, where 26 states of this region were represented. Since then, several things have moved on in relation with the work of the Hague Conference of Private International Law. Saudi Arabia became a member. The US joined the Child Support Convention. Brazil joined the Child Support Convention. Guatemala and Bolivia joined the Apostille Convention. Jamaica joined the Child Abduction Convention. China signed the 2005 Choice of Court Convention. Pakistan joined the Child Abduction Convention. We will be tackling each of these instruments I've just referred to in a couple of minutes, but the idea of showing this news is that this is the time probably for Guyana to think what of the instruments that we are going to discuss today should come first, how we should foresee them implemented in a way that they fulfill their goals and work efficiently. And nothing better than having a meeting of stakeholders to hear from you. What do you see as needs according to your experience, to your practice? So I can only thank you all for being here, and I hope we will have a fruitful discussion to move forward with this instrument. So thank you again.
I will now introduce you to our Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Basil Williams, Senior Counsel, Member of Parliament, who is no stranger to us. Mr. Williams.
The government of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana is very pleased to lead this consultative process with stakeholders. And this includes representatives of the state, civil society, and academia to discuss and to inform the way forward and how we can collectively improve our international human rights architecture, especially on the issues of international family law, legal cooperation, and commerce. Of course, at last year's conference, which was held in partnership with the HCCH, which is the Hague Conference on Private International Law, and UNICEF, I noted that the Hague Conventions primarily seek to improve the everyday lives of individuals, families, and businesses by providing the legal framework that directly responds to challenges inherent in our interconnected world. It is through this conference that Guyana announced the nomination of 2 judges to the International Hague Network of Judges. And they are Madam Chancellor Yonette Cummins Edwards and Madam Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire. And both are not here today because they are out of the jurisdiction. The 2016 conference and today's meeting is significant for us, especially those in the legal and business communities, since it allows us to seriously reflect what measures we should consider as we seek to embrace the spirit of cooperation that underpins the Hague Conventions. You will agree with me that we are living in an age of globalization where the solutions that confront us can only be solved when we work together to resolve them. Therefore, today's meeting will be instrumental in paving the way forward, especially as it relates to our discussions on which conventions Guyana should prioritize, the issue of membership, and of course, on how we begin to address those issues that relate to the protection of children. These issues become even more critical in cases of emergencies, and given the rise of migration, which can be spurred by disasters, as in the Caribbean, as we've seen, and the wider region, we have mostly recently witnessed. The government of Guyana understands the importance of investing and promoting regional cooperation and family law, legal cooperation and commerce and cross-border trade in this region and wider field. We also understand that as part of this process, we must give solid consideration to the Hague Family Conventions. To this end, we seek to understand your views on whether Guyana should become a contracting state as the government seeks to improve both its national and international architecture that is reflective of international standards, particularly to solving disputes, whether for families or business, and to offer tremendous benefits for children, particularly on the issues of child protection and child maintenance, as we seek to ensure that the best interests and support families as the most essential institution in our society. On legal commerce and cooperation, we must actively reflect how we can better offer protection, for instance, through the choice of court conventions and service conventions, the choice of law conventions, how we can promote legal certainty and simplify and expedite judicial proceedings. Of course, the importance of the apostille convention cannot be understated. It would tremendously improve the situation both in business and the everyday lives of Guyanese, certainly in the diaspora, who from time to time require to send documents back to Guyana. And as you all know, the difficulty in having the court system to accept those documents as authentic. Being a signatory to the Apostille Convention will, of course, enable us to have documents from other countries that are signatories. On the mere visual apprehension of the document that is authenticated, to accept the contents of such documents as being true. I should inform you that, in fact, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, not long after last year's conference, had in fact taken to Cabinet the Apostille Convention, and Cabinet approved that convention. It's just a question of acceding to the convention formally. So we appreciate the commitment of the Hague Conference, of UNICEF, and our partnership. And I would like to express my thanks and the government's thanks to you, and we look forward to hearing your views on these issues. In closing, on the way forward, the reflections and results of this meeting, along with the experiences and examples of other countries who have applied these conventions, will be used to inform the way forward in our deliberations, and certainly in my deliberations with Cabinet. Of course, your contribution to this process remains critical. While we have not received many submissions, it is hoped that today's session will reintroduce into the collective conscience the importance of these conventions, and collective discussion will guide the way forward. The government will seek to embrace all of the evidence as we move with alacrity on improving legal commerce and child protection. I wish, of course, that the deliberations today are fruitful and they redound to the benefit not only of the Guyanese people, but of course, the Caribbean region and the world at large. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.